show you this very calm, actually really beautiful picture. At the bottom of your screen, that is U.S. soil. That river is the Rio Grande, and what you're seeing on the other side of the river is Mexico. This is where all the action has been with those unaccompanied minors that we've been talking about, some 52,000 of them crossing into the U.S. since October. So it is one of the things that we have just a panel to talk about that, but I wanted to button up first our last conversation, and that is when the American people, your constituents, the folks you hope will return all of you to office, look on their screen and they see the president going, oh yeah, well, sue me. And they see, you know, the speaker saying, when's he going to take responsibility? Aren't your constituents back home going, what is the matter with these people? What's the argument for not saying, I'm not voting any of them?
Well, I think one of the things to realize is if the House has passed 300 bills that are sitting on Harry Reid's desk, 300 bills, deal with jobs, deal with so many of these issues, and Harry Reid will not take them up. So yes, there is a problem with inaction. And the other thing to look at is they hear the sound bites and they say, why don't you all talk to one another? And it would be very helpful for the president to come and talk with members of Congress. I don't know when he's last talked to the Democrats.
Well, he has.
He doesn't talk to the Republicans.
The job of the House of Representatives is actually to pass laws that they know have a chance of going to the Senate, being passed, and on to the president for his signature. It's true, the House has done a whole bunch of stuff that they know is never going to become law. And what the American people want is for us to extend unemployment benefits, to create jobs, to rebuild our infrastructure, to fix the crisis on the border. The American people want that kind of action. An immigration bill has passed the Senate. 200 members of the House are waiting to vote on an immigration bill in the House. All we need is 18 Democrats. Can't Speaker Boehner at least get that done so that the president can take the action that he needs?
I'm not sure that Americans don't look and think, why aren't they voting on an immigration bill as they're watching this unfold on the border?
Well, Candy, as Marsha was saying, most of the legislation that has passed the House has actually been done so in a bipartisan vote, much different than when I was a freshman and the Democrats controlled the entire process, which was a very hyper-partisan process. Our bills have gone through the House floor on an open rule. We're in the appropriation process right now. We've been voting on 100 of the amendments. Those have been Democratic and Republican amendments. So everybody's been involved in the process in the House where these bills have moved over to the Senate and died a slow death. To your question about what our constituents are thinking, they're thinking there ought to be rules of engagement. They're thinking that Congress has its responsibility and role and the president has its responsibility and role. And when my constituents see the president, who used to be their state U.S. senator, saying, if you don't like what I'm doing, sue me, that's not the type of...
But you are suing him. I mean, that's sort of, I mean, that's a problem.
Andy, the reason that we're suing him is because he's out of bounds. He's not following the rule of law. They're facing whiplash on their health care policies because they don't know what to expect because the rules keep changing.
Here on this for a second. You know, when you look at the border question, for instance, and there is a lot of question about, you know, why can't you pass an immigration bill? But I think the question now is, where is that leadership? The thing that Republicans have been hitting the president on for some time now has been, wait a second, we've had the VA, which you brought up. We've had the income tax, the tax problem over at the IRS. There have been a number of things, and the president just sort of, the administration has looked like it wasn't on top of it. Having said that, optics are a lot in politics. Do you think it is a mistake for the president not to have gone to the border this week when he was in Texas, and because it may make him look uninvolved, fair or not?
I wish he would have come to the border. I wish he would have visited McAllen, Texas, ground zero for these refugees fleeing Central America. I wish he would have come to my district in El Paso, where we've seen thousands of family members. I wanted him to meet the men and women of the Border Patrol, of ICE, of Annunciation House, a Catholic charity that's helping to take care of these families and reunite them with their families and just make sure that they're okay in this very vulnerable time in their lives. And I think it would have sent an important message to the rest of the country about how seriously he takes this issue, beyond the spending request that he sent to Congress last week.
And Congressman Edwards, it does, I wanted to get you in on this as well, because I know you're a firm supporter of the president, as are you, I suspect. But the problem here seems to be one of perception. And you know, politics is a lot about perception. How is the president going to get together with a House that is reluctant to give him a bunch of money without some other things that go along with controlling the border? How do you get to agreement on how to deal with these children?
Well, I think the president has said really the root cause of the problem that we have here is the fact that we have a patchwork quilt of immigration laws that are no longer working. There's a proposal in the Congress to get something to the president's desk to deal comprehensively with immigration, and in the absence of that, the president has proposed this $3.7 billion package, and of that, $1.8 billion goes to deal directly with these unaccompanied children, in addition to other kinds of border security measures. If the House and the Congress really showed the intent to get something done, they would take up the president's proposal, meet with the president, come to an agreement, and deal with the present crisis that we have. But the present crisis, the underlying cause of that is the fact that we refuse, and that Republicans in Congress have refused to deal with immigration reform.
Andy, there is nothing in the Senate immigration bill that would have stemmed the tide of these refugees seeking asylum in America. That's a fact. There's nothing that's being proposed by House Democrats that would have stemmed the tide of refugees seeking asylum in the United States of America. These people are coming to the United States because their home countries are unsafe, and because the president's ambiguity on whether or not he will enforce Americans' borders and the rule of law that we currently have on the books. The fact that last week the entire press internationally was a Twitter about the president's Secretary of Homeland Security's ambiguity on whether or not these children would stay or go only incites and only exacerbates the problem, with more people fleeing across the border, hoping and believing that they can stay. More than any new law, the president needs to be clear about what his intent is in enforcing our nation's laws.
Your previous guest, Senator McCain, said the problem is border security, and the president is too lax. Others may think that it's that we haven't passed immigration reform. I think the origin of the problem is this instability and insecurity in Honduras, in Guatemala, and El Salvador. And we really won't stop this crisis until we address those core issues. And we're going to have to do it in a regional way. Asylum requests in the U.S. are up, obviously, seriously over the last few years. But they're up in Nicaragua, they're up in Mexico, in Belize, in Costa Rica, and other regional areas, 700% over the last 5 years. So if we're truly going to fix this problem, we're going to have to address it here. Why not have State Department and DHS down in those countries processing potential refugees and applicants for asylum on the grounds so that they don't have to come through Mexico.
Before we get to that, there's one step
asylum there.
Proposal,
everybody says
exactly that, which is why it's really important for us to consider it. It includes resources for the Department of State, for the Department of Justice, and for Homeland Security. HHS to deal with the crisis that we have immediately with these 52,000 children.
The way to deal with it is to secure the border first.
And being in the shelters,
the thing that you hear when you're talking with individuals that are handling the effects, what has been the effect of this issue. And by the way, the June 2012 executive order of not deporting children is one of the drivers of this. But Candy, they all say to a person, Justice Senator McCain said, you've got to start by securing that border because of the human trafficking.
I mean, I must say, and I need to button this up, but what do you say to the fact that this president has deported those without papers at a much higher rate than others have before him, and that border captures are down because not as many are coming?
By what measure is the border not secure today?
But Candy, talking with people that are a part of this situation, they all say you have to secure the border, and the president needs to change some of his action. I've been in the shelter, and I've talked with these individuals, whether they're in public health or BCFS, who is the contractor for this. There are things the president needs to do. He needs to stop releasing criminal aliens. Do you realize in 2013 he released 36,000 criminal aliens
as
with
Candy has
88,000
described,
charges
this president has
against
actually put
them?
more into border
And these
security
children
and
are in
enforcement than we've
unsafe
ever had
situations.
than we've ever had in the nation's history. Since 2004, the numbers of border security agents that we've had, the amount of fencing that we've had go up, the enforcement that's gone on that border, the deportations that have happened are higher than they've ever been in this country's history. That is not the problem.
It is
let
being
me stop you here
overrun
because
with
I got
human trafficking.
I got to take a break and move on to the next subject. I want you to picture this: an all-Republican House and Senate and a Democratic White House. We'll ask our congressional members to do just that. Picture that when we come back.